Hi, so today we are going to discuss grief. Grief is a natural process that can be painful, is personal, and is normal. At some point in time, we have all either lost someone or unfortunately we will lose someone. Grief allows a person to come to terms with the significant loss of a friend, a loved one, or someone else who has been close to them. In most cases, grief will become less intense as time passes. However, for some people, they may need to seek therapy in order to help them process the loss. For some people, grief can become more complicated if failed to be resolved. So, oftentimes, if we are not allowed the space to fully experience our emotions, or if we're denied the opportunity to discuss our feelings, it can make it difficult for us to cope. So everyone grieves differently. There is no right or wrong way to say how someone should grieve the loss. Some people cry, some people laugh, people continue with their lives as normal. Some people busy themselves, some people become physically sick, or some people go numb. Some people recover very quickly while others may take more time. Grief is a natural healing process. As I said earlier, there is no right or wrong way to grieve. For some people, grief can become too painful. It can grow into something that is totally different, such as turning into anxiety or depression. Other times, grief may last too long. It may take over a person's life and make it hard for them to be able to move forward. This is called complicated grief. Normal grief varies between people's culture and their experiences. Natural grief is a natural process that does not require any type of treatment. About 10% of people develop what is described as complicated grief or loss. Complicated grief can be treated with going to a therapist. So here are a further look into the different types of grief. Acute grief. Acute means something that has come on suddenly. So immediately after a loss and months after, it is normal to have intense feelings of shock, distress, sadness, loss of appetite, changing in your sleep habits, poor ability to concentrate. These symptoms will slowly go away as time goes on. Complicated grief is something that follows acute grief. Acute grief. It can last for years. The loss of a loved one or friend continues to feel unreal and unmanageable for that person that's experiencing it. You might constantly yearn for that deceased person, or you may experience guilt, survivor's remorse, if you've ever heard of that, of the idea of moving on or feeling like if there's a situation that should have been you instead of the person that has passed. Integrated grief. After resolving the most intense symptoms of acute and complicated grief, you will enter a lifelong stage of integrated grief. At this point, you can come to accept the reality of the loss and you will resume daily activities. This does not mean that you miss your loved one, your friend, any less, or that you don't feel pain over them. It just means that you've learned how to cope. Acute grief may show up again, especially around holidays, anniversaries, and other reminders. This is why at times it's important to seek a mental health professional so that you can learn how to cope, recognize the triggers, and come up with strategies that it can assist you in getting through.